In the news tonight, RB Patel Suva shoppers to be screened. Vaccination recognition plans. And RBF expects price hikes.
From the studios of FBC Suva, Edwin Nunn.
Bulawanaka, Fiji. People who may have shopped at RB Patel Market Branch in Suva last Thursday and Friday are advised to call the COVID-19 hotline on 158. The Ministry of Health confirms they are looking for people who were at the supermarket on the 20th and 21st of May between 10 a.m. and 1 p.m. The ministry says this is part of their ongoing contact tracing of people who may have come into close contact with known COVID-19 cases. It says testing and screening is part of efforts to minimize local and community transmission of COVID-19. The Fiji Chamber of Commerce is concerned that the continuous breach of health measures will prolong Fijians' return to work. Chamber President Dr. Nurbano Ali has expressed disappointment, saying breaches are consuming resources and delaying efforts of frontline workers fighting the virus. Apanisa Wangairandovo reports over 80% of businesses are closed, with thousands of workers staying home.
With many businesses already showing interest in operating under the new COVID-19 guidelines, their biggest worry is people's behavior.
You know what's really disheartening to see is every night when we hear there's some breaches of that protocol and people are just socializing and drinking grog somewhere. I mean, this being so irresponsible.
Ali says businesses want to see people supporting their families better, urging them to make responsible choices.
Don't be irresponsible. Follow the guidelines of the Ministry of Health if you want your employment back, if you want to get back in business, and if you want to keep your family safe.
In the capital city alone, thousands of workers have been forced to stay home.
We actually don't have an exact figure of number-wise, but we know it's in thousands, employees sitting at home, with no work,
As infections continue to surge daily, the chamber says it is pleased with the vaccination efforts. Ali says many businesses are counting on this as another assurance of a quick return to operations. Apanisa Wangairandovo, FBC News.
Fiji has received requests from some countries for mutual recognition of the COVID-19 vaccination. Minister for Economy Aya Syed Qayyum says under this arrangement, Fiji will officially accept the vaccination programs of other countries and vice versa. Kritika Kumar reports.
The Minister for Economy says the arrangement will help resume secure and safe travel between countries.
It's very important to have integrity within the identification and the verification of those people who get vaccinated. And if there's mutual recognition, then travel can actually open up. And that's what we need to do. And once travel opens up, we need to ensure that our carrier will be there.
Social Democratic Liberal Party leader William Avoka is hoping the countries making the request include Australia and New Zealand.
This is what we wanted to hear this week, that there is something in the works between Fiji and some countries to mutually recognize the vaccination programs and thereby lead into travel between the countries. And hopefully this is Australia and New Zealand.
Head of COVID-19 Vaccination Task Force, Dr. Rachel Devi, says their campaign is going well as they have recorded a high uptake of the vaccine.
Good response, and we're appreciating that because honestly the ultimate aim is because we want all Fijians, all personnel in Fiji to be protected. That's the ultimate aim of this whole vaccination drive that we're doing.
The vaccine will be made available to all eligible individuals, but Fijians have been urged to wait their turn. The vaccination drive in Vitilevu continues. Kritika Kumar, FBC News.
The Reserve Bank of Fiji is anticipating an increase in the price of consumer goods in the coming months. RBF Governor Arif Ali says this could happen if there is a shortage of consumable goods due to panic buying and increased business costs caused by COVID-19 operating protocols. Higher commodity and food prices internationally may also put upward pressure on consumer prices in the coming months. Meanwhile, close to $1.7 billion is being held by commercial banks as of yesterday, according to the Reserve Bank of Fiji. Banking sector activity confirms weak consumer and business demand with a consistent drop in credit since July last year. while non-performing loans have gone up. The high liquidity level is being used to mitigate the downturn in the sector. Up ahead, Parliament sittings deferred. And lockdown community says it's the right move. Welcome back. Just a quick update. We understand that the statement by the Permanent Secretary for Health, Dr. James Fong, to give us the latest update on the COVID-19 situation will likely get underway at 8 p.m. We understand it was to have started earlier, but we are now hearing from the Ministry of Health that Dr. Fong will deliver his statement at 8 p.m. and we will bring you that live. But for now, we continue with our news bulletin. Parliament sittings scheduled for today and next week have been cancelled. Speaker of Parliament, Ratu Ipeli Nailatika, says this decision has been taken after a Secretariat staff was identified as a primary contact of a COVID-19 positive case. Ratu Ipeli says as a precautionary measure and upon the directive of the Ministry of Health, the parliamentary precincts and offices will be closed with immediate effect until further notice. The Speaker of Parliament says all parliamentary business will resume upon the advice and clearance of the Ministry of Health. A community in Nosori which is on lockdown is calling for a total lockdown of Viti Levu. Resident and pastor Reverend Manasa Kolivuso believes this is the only solution to the current crisis Fiji is going through. Sanya Nimboila reports part of Vunivivi Hill was cordoned off after the increasing number of COVID-19 cases in the area.
Should have been done right from the beginning, day one.
Reverend Kolivuso says it's about time the health ministry locks down the whole of Viti Levu to keep everyone safe.
A lockdown for the whole of Fiji should have been done right from day one. If it had been done from day one, it would have been over. Now it's running rampant.
He adds the ministry must act fast before it's too late.
I don't know how long this will go on, so I don't know what the government is thinking about it. The quicker something is done, the better it will be for the whole nation.
Vunivivi Nosori was locked down yesterday, and residents have also stopped all movement within the community. No one is allowed to leave their homes or visit neighbors.
We have decided to close our home to visitors from within Vunivivi due to the increasing number of COVID-19 cases here.
Health officials came around this morning to take out temperatures and other tests.
12 residents from Vunivivi tested positive yesterday. They were found as part of screening of that area in connection with the Navy cluster. Sainia Nimboila, FBC News.
No new cases of COVID-19 in the Western Division does not mean Sikituru villagers in Nandi will let their guard down. Village headman Samuela Malua says 15 days without new cases should not sway people into thinking that this storm is over, as the virus can re-emerge anywhere at any time. Josiah Nanunga has more.
Virus moves.
These villagers of Sikituru in Nandi have been told that no confirmed case means no reason for celebration, as the virus poses a very big risk.
We read over the news yesterday that few patients who were admitted at the Lutoko Hospital Isolation Facility have been discharged, and no cases recorded in the West for the past 2 weeks. This will not stop us from maintaining our community restrictions in place.
Laturanga Nikoro says Fijians in traditional settings play an important role in the fight against COVID-19.
We've banned social gatherings. Right now, physical distancing, washing of hands regularly, and temperature checks are most protocols that villagers have to follow.
Community health worker Annie Vakeni says we must learn from other countries that are already seeing a declining number of cases, but then cases started to emerge again.
We're working closely with the provincial office, health ministry and police force to ensure every villager is safe. Every day I made it my business to remind villagers of the importance to maintain clean hygiene.
Meanwhile, with no confirmed cases in the West recently, an announcement by the Health Ministry about relaxing various restrictions in the division is expected over the next few days. Josiah Nanunga, FBC News.
University of the South Pacific students who paid for face-to-face courses and are studying online during the pandemic are likely to be compensated. Speaking to FBC News, Deputy Vice-Chancellor Education, Professor Chito Vanualailai, says the welfare of students remains on their agenda. Christiana Uluwai reports.
Policies to reduce fees will ease the burden on students who are financially challenged during the second wave of the pandemic.
I do know that we put into place all other measures, financial measures, to ensure that our students, they continue the learning, but at the minimal cost.
University of the South Pacific's Student Association Laudala campus vice president says that policies such as these encourage students to continue their studies amidst this pandemic.
That would be really great, because what happens is that it will allow students, it may encourage students that, okay, I'm paying some certain amount, which is quite okay for me to pay, but rather than paying more what I was supposed to pay. And then maybe it encourages the same student to maybe enroll for next semester also.
The university is working closely with student body leaders to ensure that affected students are provided the assistance that they need. Christiana Uluwai, FBC News.
There will be a slight increase in the price of motor spirit and premix from next month. The Fijian Competition and Consumer Commission has announced that motor spirit will increase by 1 cent per litre, while premix moves from $1.96 to $1.97 a litre. The price of kerosene remains at $1.43, while diesel sees a decrease of 5 cents from $1.94 to $1.89. LPG prices will drop across the board. A 12 kg gas cylinder sees a $1.60 drop and will retail at $36.83. A 13 kg cylinder will decrease from $41.64 to $39.90, while a 4.5 kg cylinder will see a drop of 60 cents from $14.41 to $13.81. Bulk gas will see a 10 cents decrease from $2.70 to $2.60 per kg. Auto gas moves from $1.81 to $1.74. The 2021 cane crushing season, which had to begin from the 4th of next month, has been deferred. Permanent Secretary for Sugar, Yogesh Karan, says this has been done due to the current outbreak of COVID-19. Karan says given the current situation, they are in discussion with the Ministry of Health, and upon receiving clearance, only then they will proceed with crushing.
Given the circumstances that we have right now, there's so much of risk in doing that, so we are waiting. We are in consultation with Ministry of Health, FSC, and other stakeholders how best we can resolve this.
Here, the local exchange rates are set early this morning. The Fiji dollar was pegged high against the Japanese yen, but lost ground against all the other international currencies we cover, including our two major trading partners, the Aussie and Kiwi dollars. It was a mixed day on the commodities market. Crude oil rose by $2 at $67 a barrel. Gold dropped a few cents but remains at $1,894 per ounce, and silver was up at $27.74 per ounce. And we now join Sinifa from HFC Bank to give us the latest figures from the money markets.
Good evening. The British pound held firm near a 3-month high against the US dollar today on rising expectations of an earlier-than-expected rate hike by the Bank of England. Meanwhile, the number of Americans filing new claims for unemployment benefits dropped more than expected last week to a seasonally adjusted 406,000, with companies desperate for workers to meet surging demand unleashed by a rapidly reopening economy. Ahead of the payrolls data, U.S. inflation data due later tonight is one of the biggest focus, as a high reading could fuel expectations of policy tightening by the Federal Reserve. That's all for this week. From HFC Bank, have a safe weekend.
Fiji Airways has announced a further cancellation of all its domestic and passenger repatriation flights until June 12. This is in light of the continued movement restrictions in Fiji. It says in conjunction with foreign high commissions and embassies, limited number of special flights are approved, allowing foreigners to depart Fiji. Dedicated freighter services will continue to ensure vital export and import supply chains for Fiji remain intact. That is the latest from my end, but coming up after the break, vendor delivers services despite hardships. Stay with us.
Welcome back. A village that was forced to relocate due to the effects of climate change is working together to address food security. Eleanor Torangaiviu reports the villagers have resorted to using the idle land to plant their own food.
After being forced to relocate here 4 months ago, villagers of Nambawatu in Reketi are not letting their circumstances affect their everyday living.
We have bonded together and working on our farms because this is our food for every day.
Leaving behind their homes and starting new has not been easy, but these villagers are taking it in stride.
It's been 4 months now and we are slowly adapting. We have plotted our land and planted vegetables, mostly cucumbers, cabbage, corn, beans, tomatoes and chilies.
With the help of Live and Learn through their climate-smart agriculture training, villagers were given farming implements and raised seedlings to help address food security.
A total of 69 families were assisted and given the seedlings. Some have gone to plant their own root crops.
Today, the villagers are harvesting the fruits of their labor.
We have started harvesting mainly the cucumbers, beans and cabbage, and it's being distributed to the families.
Agriculture has long been the main source of livelihood for the villagers, and they're continuing the practice in their new environment. Eleanor Torangaiviu, FBC News.
As businesses and entrepreneurs continue to feel the impact of COVID-19, a market vendor is committed to continuing to supply Fijians with fresh produce. For 11 years, Loraini Rodobitu has been selling vegetables and root crops at the Center Point Market, and since the second wave of COVID-19, the 53-year-old is showing no signs of slowing down. Lina Rees reports.
Prior to COVID-19, Loraini Rodombitu would have her supplies dropped off at her stall. Now she travels to the containment borders to collect the produce she'll sell.
I travel to the border in Nakasi, I go to the border in Sawani, sometimes I also travel to the border in Wainandoi. I hire a taxi from the base here in Center Point and travel to fetch my produce every day.
As Fiji fights its second wave of the pandemic, Rodombito believes a lot more understanding is needed in our communities to help people get through this difficult time.
Empathy is the first thing that comes to me when people come to buy vegetables and I know they can't afford it. Sometimes I just give it to them for free or sell it at whatever price they can't afford. This time around, profit is not everything, especially when we are struggling.
The mother of four says she is steadfast in her faith and believes if people work together, Fiji can overcome this second wave and work its way back to getting people their jobs and getting children back in school. Lina Rees, FBC News.
Youth in Napani Nasinu have taken responsibility in keeping residents safe from COVID-19 by supporting authorities in their community efforts. They're ensuring people adhere to the health restrictions so that things can go back to normal as soon as possible. Kelly Vadala reports.
The recent swell in COVID-19 cases has seen these youth jump into action, ensuring that the community is not exposed.
We watch TV every day and we see the cost of negligence.
These volunteers also closely monitor the movement of people in and out of the area.
Around Nepani, the number of cases that have been found has given the members of the community and other members of our community around us that this is something that we need to do.
Taking temperatures, ensuring people wear their mask and have their KPG app activated is all part of their COVID community work.
I personally feel safe having to come in and out of Nepani and seeing our young men and women whom we grew up with doing this.
Residents say seeing the youth lead by example during this difficult time gives them encouragement about the future. Kelly Badala, FBC News.
Jamie's up next with the latest in sports.
Thank you and good evening. Ahead in sports. Olympian Tsasa Verimalua now wants a chance at representing Fiji again, but this time on a different stage. After completing his 7th career on a high with an Olympic gold, the 32-year-old is aiming for a place for the Fijian Drua in their 2022 Super Rugby campaign. Fijian scrum half Nicola Matawalu is set to join a new club next season. After his debut for the North Sydney Bears, Penyoni Tangituimua has attributed his recent achievements to the Kaiviti Silktails. Tangituimua says he was well-equipped for last weekend's match thanks to the training and conditioning at the Silktails camp. The Touch Fiji franchise competition is not only an eye-opener and new opportunity for players. As Aquila Dama explains, Touch Rugby officials were also blessed with the first few rounds before it was put on hold due to the second wave of COVID-19 in the country.
Head of referees and former national rep Maleli Uluimoala says they are looking forward to the resumption of competitions to test more officials.
We've improved a lot in terms of game's knowledge and interpretation of the law during the game, and still work in progress for some of the inexperienced refs.
Even Touch Fiji Federation has seen a vast improvement in referees.
We are quite happy that the franchise, has provided that platform where we are exposing our referee to be reffing, at the elite level, and lessons been learned.
And on the decision they're making, they need to be firm on the decision. That's the only area that we need, I think, we really need to work on.
TFF completed 2 rounds of the franchise competition before COVID-19 put everything on hold. Aquila Dama, FBC Sports.
Fiji Mbati forward Tuikam Kamida was instrumental in Melbourne Storm's 40-12 win over Brisbane Broncos in round 12 of the NRL last night. The 27-year-old burst through Brisbane's defense to score the second try and helped give them a lead in the first half. Doctors in Tokyo are ramping up a campaign to have the Olympics postponed or cancelled, warning of a potential COVID disaster. So what do the athletes who are in their final weeks of training think should happen? That's it from Sports Tonight. Coming up in Weird and Wonderful, how to get paid tasting burgers. Find out more after the break.
Cloudy periods with some showers and possible thunderstorms over the northern part of Vanua Levu, Taveuni and northern Lau group, mainly fine elsewhere. In the west, mainly fine with cool nights. Eastwards from Pacific Harbour to Suva, sunny weather in the morning giving way to cloudy conditions this afternoon. In the north, cloudy periods with some showers and possible thunderstorms. At sea, south to southeast, winds 10 to 15 knots, moderate seas, moderate southerly swells. The next high tide is at 8:15 p.m., about 20 minutes from now, with low tide at 1:57 a.m. Sunrise will be at 6:32. Outlook for tomorrow, cloudy periods with some showers and possible thunderstorms over the northern part of Vanua Levu, Taveuni and northern Lau group, mainly fine elsewhere. And for Sunday, some showers and isolated thunderstorms over the northern part of Viti Levu, and Vanua Levu, Taviuni and Northern Lau Group. Elsewhere, cloudy periods with some showers and possible thunderstorms. And recapping our main stories, shoppers at RB Patel in Suva called in for screening. The villagers of Vunivivi say there should be a lockdown across Viti Levu, and there have been, the Health Permanent Secretary is expected to deliver a briefing later this evening on the latest situation on COVID-19. For the other stories, and you can tune into our sister radio station Gold FM. To our poll question, this week we are asking, do you think Fijians are abiding by restrictions to curb the spread of COVID-19? Visit our FBC News website to answer. Send us newsworthy pictures and videos. Email fbcnews@fbc.com.fj or share it with us via our various social media accounts. You can also download our FBC app to keep updated with the very latest in news and sports and listen to our 6 radio stations live. That's your news this evening. I'll see you again tomorrow. Until then, stay safe. Modemanda.